How can I use my server's IPv6 connection from my computer's IPv4? I have a server that has IPv6 and IPv4 support. I would like to use this to allow my desktop, which has an IPv4 only connection, to connect to other servers via IPv6. What type of software is necessary on the server and on the desktop to enable this? The server is running Ubuntu Linux 10.04 LTS and the desktop is running Mac OS X 10.6.7.
This question has been answered on server fault. The solution is to use a device tunneling instead of the SOCKS proxy.
For a specific connection, you could use a SOCAT relay. You install SOCAT on the server and have it run, e.g. via startup script, so as to set up an IPv4 to IPv6 relay. Here's a simple IPv4 to IPv6 TCP relay for an IPv6 web server. The client connects to the relay's IPv4 address.
You have to convert your server into an IPv6 router and make it the default gateway for your desktop systems. Here is a description how to do this. This URL.
Apparently an ordinary SSH tunnel mostly works for web browsing, if you don't mind proxying all of your IPv4 traffic as well. That's just running on your computer and configuring your operating system and/or browser to connect via the SOCKS proxy on localhost column 1234. Mostly works. I used this URL to evaluate this solution for web browsing. In Chrome and Safari, every test passes except for test IPv6 without DNS. In Firefox, every test passes except for test if your ISP's DNS server uses IPv6. Opera can't use a SOCKS proxy. I imagine that setting up a VPN would make everything work properly.
As you say that your ISP doesn't support IPv6, you need IPv6 over IPv4, called also 6 to 4. One method is presented in connecting to an IPv6 address using IPv4. Choose Apple menu, System Preferences, and then click Network. Click Add, Plus, and then choose 6 to 4 from the interface pop-up menu. Give the configuration a name, and then click Create. If you were given a relay address, choose manually from the Configure pop-up menu and enter it. Otherwise, leave the Configure pop-up menu set to Automatic. The above method is demonstrated here with screenshots. IPv6 6 to 4 configuration for Mac OS X. Another method is detailed in Apple Mac OS X IPv6. Mac OS X supports configured tunnels with the GIF tunnel interface. Setting up a manual tunnel requires several steps on the command line. Beforehand, you need the following information. Set up the IPv4 endpoints of the tunnel. Set up the IPv6 endpoints of the tunnel. Set the IPv6 default route on the tunnel. I cannot test any of the methods, not having a Mac. You can also try and find a tunnel broker that gives you an IPv6 in IPv4 address. You will get an IPv6 address, with which you can browse the IPv6 internet. Most tunnel brokers require you to have the tunnel open 24/7, though. A number of big tunnel brokers have been set up, among which are in Europe 6s.net, in Canada Freenet 6.net and Hurricane Electric.
If you want to support the channel, please consider liking and subscribing.